Ishizu tier, does it live up to the hype of being a tier 0 deck? Yeah, it does. I'm not gonna run you guys around in circles. Yes, it does. It's a really powerful deck, and it is a deck that really rewards the player if they know what they're doing and if they practice. Because if they practice, you're not gonna get screwed over by the policy, getting penalized for slow play, not knowing how to build your chains. Those are really big things. I'll talk more about it later on. But I got a build for you guys today. I'm also gonna test a hand for you guys just to show what kind of end board it's supposed to aim for. But you know, it's a really diverse deck, and depending on the matchup, you might change up how things go. And especially when you're gonna be hit by stuff that disrupts you, like bestial cards, you might get DD crowed. But I got a build for you guys. I'm gonna showcase it to you, and we're gonna test it out. So make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button, hit subscribe, ding that notification bell, and don't forget to check out MSTmerch.com. And thank you for the support, and let's go. I want to take a minute to talk about the packages I'm not running before I get into the deck, because there's really little variance, and you might have questions of why people aren't running these cards, which would be the Bestial package and the Gravekeeper's Trap package. So for the Bestial package, I would say if you're not playing Tearlament Ishizu, you should be playing this stuff, because it does hurt when the fusions do not go through, and putting out a big beat stick with a strong follow-up, I don't see why you wouldn't do it. But for this deck in particular, it's just that you need consistency. The name of the game for this deck is consistency in your mills. So yeah, milling these cards into the grave, not really the best things, although some people are choosing to run one because giving you an extra hand trap is pretty good, and this one being the one that does remove bodies does help out a lot. As for the Gravekeeper Trap package, yes, this is very strong if you manage to get both Gravekeeper Trap face up on the field and Exchange of the Spirit into the graveyard. However, again, the name of the game is consistency, and you can't control that. You can get Mudora in your hand if you can consistently get that, and if you get Mudora, you also need to find a way to get Exchange of the Spirit into the graveyard. And if you don't mill it, you don't have an auto like face up trap card Dweller. So this card, if you have these two together, yeah, it makes the matchup super easy, especially when the game one when they don't have back row removal, and that kind of shuts down, well, most of the game. However, you can't control it, and which is why having these cards milled is not exactly the best idea here. So that's why these cards aren't really being run, because you'd rather just get successful mills every single time. So my build here is based off of Hani's build and also Mateo's build from the Dkay 3K. I gotta give credit where credit is due, so check out their channels as well. So anyways, there's not a lot of variance, to be honest, because if you want to play a 40 card package, shoving in 2 packages already is almost like 28 cards, and if you fill the rest of the way there's almost like no change, especially the extra deck. There's pretty much like 0 variance, I would say, if you want to play consistently. So starting off with the main deck, I play 2 copies of Rhino Heart. You can play a third if you want. I don't think it's necessary, but if you want the consistency of seeing the Rhino Heart, there you go. And you definitely want to see your 4s. And speaking of 4s, we have Tearlament Sharon. Sharon is another 4 that you get the special summon. Just, you want to play out most of your Tearlament cards first, because they don't mill your opponent. And if you're going to be expecting a mirror match, milling your opponent's cards with the yugioh or the Kelbeck, that is going to be very risky unless you have everything set up just so that the mills don't benefit your opponent as much. We play triple copies of Havness. This one's extra thick, as you can see. There's no bottom border. Great cut. And yeah, you just want to max out on the Tearlament names. And triple Merly. Remember to save the Merly for like Tearlament, not Tearlament, but like Sprite Elf or Sprite Sprint. And yeah, even Sprint is actually pretty useful, giving you a little bit of a bounce, because you can use Dweller's material for that bounce as well. And as for the one Fairy, we're playing 1 Diviner the Herald. Normal summoning this is kind of strange sometimes. I mean, you kind of want to throw in the card to get you like the mills, but at the same time, you might want to throw in like a Keldo or a Mudora, because you want to set up ways to counter your opponent before you go into your mills. Let's say you have like your Sharons or you have your other Kelbecks, you're ready to go off. You make sure that you can actually remove your opponent's stuff from the graveyard so that they don't benefit off of you milling them. For the Earth Raiders, we have Keldo, and starting with triple Keldo here, because Keldo is one of your important counter plays against your opponent, because this is the shuffle back. These are like Transmigration Prophecies almost, except that it hits 3 cards right away. Really powerful card in general, but this one is the one that gives you a new name to your hand. If you send another Earth Fairy from your hand to the graveyard, you can special summon this card, and it's going to provide you with like Mudora, yugioh, Kelbeck, any of those, because they all mention Exchange of the Spirit, which is why this is really preferred. And it's also level 4, so immediately gives you easy access to a quick Dweller. It works really well, especially when you have Mudora, I would say, because now you have your graveyard basically intact, and you can definitely hit your opponent's graveyard no problem. Then we have triple Mudora, essentially the same thing as Keldo. Once it hits the graveyard, once on the field, you can banish it so that you can shuffle back cards, like a Transmigration Prophecy. Once again, it's great for disruption, and it's a quick effect, which is why it's so good. And then we have triple copies of yugioh. And the alternative build only plays one yugioh because essentially once you get a 10 card mill, your turn 1 can essentially just mill like 20 cards. And I don't think you need to see this card anymore. Then we have triple copies of Kelbeck. Remember, if something gets sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, you can target a special summon monster and just bounce it back to the hand, which is why this is already a really good card. And milling it is also just as good. And finally, we have Herald of the Orange Light, because this provides us with the ability to throw these cards into the graveyard and also basically trigger them and get a 5-card mill, or get yourself a 3-card shuffle back. So Herald of Orange Light essentially is just another hand trap. So by default, this deck already has a ton of hand traps built in. So for spell cards, we're playing Terraforming, which leads into triple Pelareno. All right. And these are 1-card starters. And speaking of 1-card starters, we have, of course, the Instant Fusion for the Kikalos start, which is broken. Doesn't require any commitment. It's out from 1,000 life points. 2 copies of Tearlament Screen. You can play 3 copies if you want. I think 2 is my preference. I don't know why. I tried 3 for a while. I kept on opening just too many copies, and I just couldn't play. So maybe it's just my bad luck, which is why I decided to tune it down a bit. But of course, it's up to your preference there. So I'll just choose to play 2 for now. And I think one of the most important cards you have to play is something that's not interruptible. And I'm going to be choosing Super Poly over the Droplet. The reason why is that if your opponent decides to set a Tearlament's Crime, then Forbidden Droplets, you need to open one of your trap cards so that you don't get Tearlament's Crime. Otherwise, you're going to get Dwellered, and you want to activate the Super Poly on the Volcalos plus the Dweller. Since they're both water, that's going to provide you with a little bit of an opening so that you can go into your Mud Dragon. And this is before they get to activate their Dweller. So if they don't Dweller you, you get to play the game and you can crack the board. Otherwise, if you're under Dweller, you're not going to be able to fuse anything, you're not going to be able to do anything, and you're kind of just through the game already. So that's why you need something that's unrespondable. Although using Droplet itself is also not that bad, because if they don't have the back row, if they don't have the Crime, then you don't have to worry about your card not going through. As long as you go Droplet, chain to the Abyss Dweller, you should be in a good position overall. So these are the spell card lineup, and finally just the 3 trap cards. We have 2 Solix and a Crime. You could just cut it down to 1 Solix. The ratios, they kind of fluctuate a little bit depending on what you need, but I think these are probably the ones that you definitely want to see. All right, for the extra deck, we have 1 Synchro Baron de Fleur made with Diviner. We have, for the Tearlament package, of course, we have 1 Kikalos, we have 1 Roll Kalos, and 1 Kaleido Heart. For the Kikalos, you can play an additional copy if you want, and you're likely going to change the ratio once we hit February, where people are going to diabolish your extra deck, and when they diabolish your extra deck, they're definitely taking this card away. So keep that in mind. It's either that or they're going to take away your Zeus. So something that needs to be doubled up, and I think this one enables you to play, so probably switch to 2 in the future. But for now, we just have a little bit of variance, which is the 1 card slot. As for the rest of the fusions, these are just the names, of course. Same attribute, different type, same attribute, same type, and of course 1 fusion and a dark monster. When this is your negator, these are just your pieces to break boards and to combo. As for the links, 1 elf, 1 sprint, 1 dark charmer, and as for the extra card, we have 1 Lingeribo. This is just a deterrent for people playing like what's her name, Ibli, so that you can just link off the Ibli and keep going, and giving you a bit of a trap removal, which is great. And as for the rest of it, we have 1 Dweller, 1 Time 3 Free Doer, 1 Baguska, and 1 Zeus. These are important. Dweller is pretty self-explanatory. Time 3 Free Doer gives you an additional fusion if you need to, and also gives you intel. Baguska, in case you actually can't build anything and you're stuck with 2 4s, the Baguska will turn everything to defense mode for you, and Zeus is Zeus. So that's the build. So what's the end board? So if this deck is as good as it seems, I should be able to just open any hand and get to the final board regardless. Well, there's probably some level of bricking, but this hand is pretty good. I mean, I have everything. I have Grave Control, thanks to these 2, and I have a Summon, and I have the Field Spell. I have everything. So let's see if I can work this out. So I'm going to start off with the Pelareno. Pelareno is going to help me add Scarin. I could just go for Rhinoheart, but Rhinoheart burns a normal summon, and I have to be very careful when I want to burn that normal summon. So next, I'm going to activate the Scarin effect. I'm going to ditch the Merly. We're going to mill 3, 2, 3. We hit a Havness as well. I'm only going to use Merly in this case, and I also have a Medora, so that was a fantastic hit. I'm going to grab the Havness that we just milled, and we're going to bottom deck those so that we can go into a kit. Kit effect, we're going to grab back, well rather, we're going to grab a Rhino Heart. We're going to normal summon out the Rhino Heart, and we're going to dump a Merly into the graveyard. Merly has already fused, so Merly is not going to activate this time. And instead what we're going to do is we're going to overlay these two immediately into an Abyss Dweller. And with the Dweller, we're going to detach Scarin just so that we have fusion material. And now we're going to activate Kit Kalos, target itself and the Merly, summon out the Merly, Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, Chainlink 2, 1, 2, 3. Oh, we hit an yugioh. We're going for these. There's 2 right here. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Merly's activated. Scarin has not. Neither has Havness. So we do have quite a few chains. So we're going to go Chainlink 1 with the Scarin, Chainlink 2, Scream, Chainlink 3, yugioh. So Chainlink 3, yugioh, 5 card mill. There's the Havness for the next chain. 3, 4, 5. So that's 5. Scream, let's grab ourselves a trap card. We'll grab the Crime. And then Soliak and the Kit Kalos. We're gonna bottom deck them. And we can summon out our Volcalos. Now I want to make sure that Volcalos can be under an arrow, so I'm gonna put it right here. And the rest of this can be put away. Now this is the bottom here, and this is the next chain here. We have a Havness right here. I'm gonna use Havness's effect, and I'm gonna fuse with the Scarin that has been put into the graveyard. These two should be able to make a nice Garura. And that's the end of this one. So I still have the option to continue. I am going to continue. And this is going to be kind of nice. So I'm going to use Keldo now. I'm going to activate Keldo, send Kel back, special summon out the Keldo, and I'm going to add to my hand another Kelbeck. That's going to trigger the Kelbeck. I don't know what I'm going to use this for. I don't really have space. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a lot of names I just got thrown into the graveyard for no apparent reason, because I've already used all 3 of my fusion effects, but that's okay. I can definitely just shuffle them back into the deck anyway, and it's probably what I'm going to do. So now I'm going to take the Merly, and I'm going to link summon with these two. So I'm going to link summon it like right here so that these are protected. I have a Garura on board, so I'm going to activate Elf. I did send a Diviner into the graveyard. I'm going to special summon out the Diviner. Now in this case, Diviner, I'm going to send a level 2 into the grave. I should have a Herald of Orange Light, this making it level 4. I'm going to synchro these two into a Baron. And I'm going to shuffle because I did dig through the deck, and I get to draw 1 card from the Garura, so I'm going to draw a card from the Garura. I got an instant fusion, which is like pretty busted already, and I get to set a couple of cards to play with my opponent, and just so that I can load my grave back with some stuff. I know I probably have multiple Medoras in here. I think I do, so I'm going to activate one of the Medoras just to put back some of the names, like Scarin, maybe a Proloreno, and I'll just put these back into the deck so that when I do make my mills again, they are going to be much more successful. That's actually pretty busty if you look at it. Like, look at all the stuff that I managed to get. Like, you got Negate, you got Grave Control, you got Graveyard Summon, and you have also Summon Negate, you have Pop, you have Counter Trap, you have Negate again, and you have a Balance. Like, and you have Grave Control too. So this is just overwhelming amount of stuff, and it's all layered up, making it just really hard to play against. And if you guys have different ways to combo, let me know down in the comment section. Now, before I close out this video, I just want to give a little bit of advice to you guys. Number 1, make sure you guys practice this deck, because you need to be able to play efficiently to not get slow play warnings on this one, because you're going to be building chain links like crazy, and if you don't know how to resolve your chain links properly, or if you have to take a lot of time thinking about these large chains, it's not going to fall in your favor, and likely if you get the second warning, they might be upgradable and you might get a game loss because of it, so be very careful. The second thing is understand how to build your chain links with your opponent. You're having a lot of triggers and you're doing mirror matches, so if you're going to be doing that, you know your chain links are going to build like maybe chain link 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, it does happen, and if you don't know how to build it properly, you might get PE minors, and if you get multiple PE minors from your chain link building, then you're probably going to get another upgradable offense, which could lead to a game loss. And if you get these game losses constantly, you're going to have a bad time, because you'll be like, oh, I was winning, and then all of a sudden everything kind of went south. So just be very careful. So I do not recommend anyone that's not really familiar with how Segok works to play this deck, but if you're comfortable and you're willing to put in the time, put in the work to learn the deck, 100% this is one of the craziest decks available in the current format. So yes, this will have a very, very high win rate, and it even has like a huge luck